All right, Kymone Hinds, welcome to Growth Season. I'm really excited that we get a chance to sit down together because I think that your story, your journey, and then the community that you serve, my community growth season has an opportunity to learn from so many different perspectives because growth seems to be, it just seems to be where you're at. I mean, would that be a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Season. And definitely, this is exciting to me as we're talking about growth.
Hmm.
There's so many people who are aspiring for growth, who are just desiring growth, and I'm looking forward to the things that we're going to just discover today as we talk.
Absolutely. Now, I know I've already introduced you, but I just want to reiterate this. Family, this gentleman is not only a father of three, husband, father of three, but also he is an entrepreneur who began in the service of God. And I think that's not something we really stop doing. It's just we change assignments
Sure.
sometimes. But also, you have two podcasts. We'll get into some of that. You have a coaching business that's turned consulting business that is turned into just its own living, breathing community, right?
Yes.
So, as we dig into this, would you mind give Grow Seeds in just a little bit of background, who you are, where you came from? Tell us about yourself.
Sure, sure. So, my background is interesting, right? Like you just mentioned, I came from pastoring or ministry background into starting my own business. But it's interesting when I was thinking about my shift there, my undergrad is in something called actuarial science, right? So it's like a business degree. Those are the people who price your insurance and help to set up your pension plans because they calculate risk.
Ah,
And going back to, after I left college, I felt this tug that, okay, this isn't what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. And I followed what I felt was God's leading, person
mhm.
of faith. I followed God's leading and went off to school to train to be a minister and served for 15 years. Um, Enjoyed the journey, did a
Mm.
lot of different things, worked as a youth director. So that means I coordinated youth activities, worked as a church planter, worked as a local church pastor, and then felt that same sort of like tug again that I felt the first time saying, this isn't what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life, which is a very interesting thing that, God would shift me. I felt
Mhm.
shifted one time and felt shifted again. And kind of looked over the course of my life, even while I was in that ministry assignment. And I said, what is this thing that I I'm good at? What is the thing that I feel that excites me? And even in all of those assignments, what I was good at is helping other people to bring their ideas to life.
Love
And
it.
that light bulb went on. And that's what I've been pursuing for these last almost 3 years.
Well, now, I think it's amazing too that you are differentiating between calling, which is to bring things to life, to bring ideas specifically, but bringing things to life in other people as well as yourself or maybe your children,
Mhm.
but or definitely your children, amen. But also the differentiation between call and assignment.
Yeah.
You used those specific words was assignment. Can
Yeah.
you give our community a little bit of a breakdown what that is? Because we get like, what's my call? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is my like?
Yeah.
All of this is just very hazy sometimes.
Sure, sure. That's such a good question. I think to all those who are listening to this, you have a call on your life that I
Mm.
believe is so much bigger than we might even imagine. Right? It's so much bigger. And the good thing about that is it's not limited based on whatever vocation I'm in. It's not limited based on
Yeah.
some of the constraints of that. Your calling is lived out in all of your various aspects of life.
Mm.
And it's a calling to be the best you, and in doing that, how to help and bless others, and I believe to also glorify God. So that's your calling, to be the best you, to bless others and to glorify God.
I
Now,
like it.
I think what we sometimes get tripped up on is we think that only paid religious people, paid clergy are called. But I think that is such a limiting view. I think we're all called, right? Like we all have God's call into blessing others,
Yeah.
glorifying Him, and we live that out in various assignments. We may live it out on a particular job, or we may live it out in some other pursuit. But that assignment is not just everything about our call. Our call is so much bigger than that.
Yeah, each one of us has a sphere of influence wherever we are, and we don't have to be clergy. And I'm hoping that the growth season community hears what he is saying. That means you have a purpose where you are, that you don't have to, although you're welcome to, obviously, dedicate your life to a higher calling, possibly, serving God, serving other people. But we can do that in the grocery store, can't we?
Absolutely.
We can help to bring joy. We could do it
Yeah.
at the pet store. We could,
Right.
wherever.
I mean, if you think about it, it's sometimes, I think sometimes if we think about it, those who are in professional clergy, they have an opportunity, and their role really is to help other people to discover their call and to live it out where they live, where
Mm.
they work, where they play. And that's really what it is. It's not to say only the professionals are, don't try this at home. No, their job is to say, here's what this looks like, and now live that out at home, live that out on your job, live that out where you play. And I think that's what's exciting to me about just understanding that whole concept of calling. It makes everyone get on the team rather than a few people on the field and everyone spectating.
I like it because, like I said before, we all have a purpose. So let me ask this: when you're in the midst of helping someone's idea to come to life, now we're
Hmm.
moving forward. Some you've transitioned, you've begun the podcast, you've had a relaunch for your podcast as well, which I love. Just even that shows growth. Like, can we just? I think that you might be my kind of people because you're pivoting, you're growing, you're learning while you're helping other people to learn. I think it's a beautiful process. But when you are helping a specific person bring their idea to life, can you tell us what that looks like? What are you doing when you're investing this with someone else?
That's such a good question. One of the main things that I start with anyone who brings an idea is helping them to, first of all, um, believe in what they have and the assets that they bring to the table.
Okay, full stop. That is so powerful. And here's the reason that it's so striking to me, and I'm hoping the community is following me here. What if you didn't ever know? Follow your dreams, right? What are your
Mhm.
strengths? I have strengths. what it's so I love that you are involved in helping somebody do this, not just expecting them to bring their own ideas to life all by themselves. Hear me, people, we need help, especially for those of us who have never been given vision, who
Mm.
don't follow your dreams. What dreams? I I didn't know I could have dreams. Right. And it almost, and I've heard this before, maybe you can concur and then please continue what your thought was. Um, for us to be able to move into a better version or a higher frame of reference in our lives, belief in ourselves, investing in the world around us, somebody else has to be able to kind of show us what that looks like. So
Mhm.
you say, I have them. Say it for me. Paraphrase it one more time.
Yeah, I have them like believe in that idea and the assets that they bring to the table, all of the wonderful things that they bring to the table.
I love it.
I'll say it this way. Some of your listeners may be people who are familiar with scripture. There's a particular story in the Bible
Mhm.
of Elisha, the prophet Elisha, and there's a lady who comes to him and she is saying, "Hey, here is my financial challenge. My husband is passed.
Mm.
I'm in debt. I only have these two sons, and the creditors are coming to take my sons to enslave them. I need help." And, if we're thinking from a church religious background, we'll say, okay, let's collect an offering for her, right?
Mm.
Let's Elisha is so powerful, let's work a miracle. He says to her, here's the question: what do you have in your house? And to me, that's what I have the awesome privilege to do with people as we're bringing ideas to life, to say to them, what do you have? What do you have on the inside?
Oh,
What
goodness.
experiences do you have? um, what skills do you have? What interests do you have? Like, what do you have? Because sometimes we tend to play small. We tend to, like, just like that lady said, all I have is a little bit of oil, right? Like all I have is just a little bit. And what one of the main things in bringing your idea to life, and anyone listening to this, if you have something that you want to work on, I want you to take some time and just begin to write out, what are all the things I know how to do? What's all the experience I have in a particular area? So maybe you want to develop maybe a photography business, and you think to yourself, well, I just have this little camera here, but how long have you been taking pictures? How long have people been telling you you have a great eye for framing stuff? And that's what one of the first steps in bringing your ideas to life is, really um, evaluating what you're working with.
I really like this. So what I find the most, I wouldn't say the most, but something I'm drawing out of this is what do you already have?
Yeah, it's good.
Already have. So
Hmm.
the idea that there has been preparation in life, have we not seen it yet? Do you
Hmm.
know, when somebody says, like you had mentioned, photography, you've been taking
Hmm.
photos for a while, you have a really good eye. How quickly we are to go, oh, and then 2 days later, we've forgotten it's even happened.
Yeah.
And so I love how you're sitting and you're investing in other people. And maybe somebody's hearing this and thinking to themselves, yeah, I'm sure someone said I'm good at something. I can't remember what those things are. I don't know what my passions are. Is this
Mhm.
something that you run into on the front end often? Or do you tend to step into a situation with someone who is already recognizing some of their strengths and their skills?
I think it's probably half and half.
Mm,
I have people who will come saying, "Okay, I know this is it. I want to work on this. How can we grow?" And even for that person, we still have to spend some time saying, "Okay, let's kind of figure out all of your other things that you're bringing to the table, resources, who you're connected to, etc."
right.
But I will say there are quite a lot of individuals who come and they'll say, and I'm I can relate. I don't think what I have is very valuable. I know you talk about this, but maybe that's for some elite creative group, and I'm not part of that group, or I don't have anything to work with. But I will tell you, like, there are some questions that we explore and some things that we go through, and we even have them do that thing you just talked about. What do people ask you for help with? What do
It's
people
so
say
powerful.
you're really good at? Because sometimes we have blind spots to our own um genius, but
Yeah.
other people kind of help bring it out, where they say, man, that was really good. You're really good at that. And just help them to reflect, because I think sometimes reflection helps us to get clarity.
I love it. I love it. Reflection is so vitally important. It's something that I have been hearing a lot of lately. And I think that it's something that, as somebody who's consistently like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Reflection feels the opposite direction of my momentum.
Hmm.
And it actually is a springboard. Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Wow.
and you say it, like, I think both of them go together, right? I
Hmm.
think there's some people who we may spend way too much time, like, reflecting, where we overthink. So you need some movement. You
You
need
need some
some, okay, I get
activators in your
clarity.
life.
Yeah, you need, like, okay, there's some things you won't get clarity on unless you take action, right?
Well, listen, without giving away the whole farm here, I love the fact that you seem like a very safe place for somebody to be vulnerable, which is, I think, what happens because in bringing an idea to life, I get the feeling that you're overcoming more than writer's block. Do you know?
Absolutely.
More than, and so this is a holistic approach. And then okay, so this is where that spiritual teaching comes in as well, because you're dealing with the whole person. You're
Right.
dealing with how somebody thinks and feels and believes in life or about themselves, as well as execution and logistics and helping somebody plan out something to bring their idea into fruition. What do you find for yourself, for you personally, coaching somebody is the hardest part about helping them to grow and to bring their idea into fruition?
I just think sometimes we get to, I think, as human beings, we get to the point where um there's a soundtrack in our head
Hmm.
that sometimes says, who do you think you are to do this,
Oh
right?
my
Like,
goodness. Hello.
yeah, it's there's a term for it. It's called like imposter syndrome, but without putting a term on it, we all know it, right? We know
That
um,
voice.
it's that voice, and we know that voice. It's the voice when you didn't know how to ride a bicycle before, but you started riding, and as you were riding, something hit you that said, "Wait, you're not supposed to be riding, so why don't you fall?" Right? It's the voice that says, as you're getting out there and you have this idea to put yourself out there to offer some service, and you begin getting out there, and there's something that says to you, who are you to do this?
Mm.
You don't have any experience in this, and you're a fraud, and people will pull the curtain back and they'll figure out there's no real wizard behind the curtain. That's the biggest challenge. And so I, there's some wonderfully creative people who even they've crystallized that idea and they're getting ready to go, and then that voice begins to pull them back, and that's where
Mm.
you have to continue to do that work, some of the reminder work of, hey, what do I have to work with, and why should I believe in this?
Do you find that you run into people that are more afraid of success or afraid of failure?
Mm, that's a great question. That's a great question. Um, I think I think it's probably failure, but the,
Mm.
the thing is, I think I run into a lot of people who don't want to give themselves the permission to dream success.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
almost like I don't even want to envision success because I don't want to be let down. So if I
Mm.
dream too big on
And I can't
success,
have it.
I don't want to have that dream snatched away. So I'm not even going to go shopping in that area because I don't have the money. I don't want to be disappointed. And I
Yeah,
think that's what's difficult for us all. We try to manage our own like letdowns. And I think it's something we all have to work through. I think, as people of faith, I think God calls us to believe in him, but also what he's put inside of us. And so that's something we
absolutely.
have to manage.
So that he can have his full return if you're a person of faith. And it isn't just about making us awesome, but it does say in the word of God that I can do all things through Christ who
Mm-hmm.
strengthens me. And the part that I rest my hat on in that is who can do it? Because it
Mm,
doesn't say Jesus can do all things through Jesus. It says,
mm-hmm.
I can do all things through
Yeah,
Jesus. There's
that's powerful.
nothing wrong with
That's
pressing in
powerful.
into
Yeah,
excellence.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I really, I love this. Can you please, just for the community, tell us, I know that you have two successful podcasts. You have one that rests from time to time. It's called All Up in the Business.
Yes,
This one's I just love because, praise God, you're speaking to young people. Tell me a little bit about this one.
sure. So I have, my wife and I were blessed with three teenagers
Mm.
at the same time, right? So,
I was like, did you say
kind of
blessed?
says a little bit about us. We're a little bit busy,
Yes.
and now that, so it's a little bit interesting in our home. I will say it's the blessing of having three teens at the same time is in the midst of this pandemic, they have each other. So they have another
Yes.
teen that they can relate to, which can also be the same challenge. Like they have another teen they can argue with. But you know, so we have three teens, and I have two teen daughters. So I have a son and two daughters, and both of my daughters are teen entrepreneurs.
All right.
They saw what I was doing. One of them asked when I was thinking about doing a camp, she suggested I do a camp for teens on how to start a business. And she got
Yeah.
started. And then when we started, one of the things we recognized is for a teen to be successful in business, um, the parents need to be involved. Like there needs to be parental involvement.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic in any way. Will you please say that again? I think that speaking into the life of our young people, especially right now when there's been so much exposure to hard disappointment, hopes deferred, so many things that have been happening. Please say that again.
Oh, what about when a teen
For a
starts a
t-
business?
for a teen to be successful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For a teen to be successful in business, and I probably should expand that to like really anything, right? There needs to be parental involvement.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
that
and
that
that's not an
is
accusation. That's
yeah,
just a season. Please remember to slow
yeah,
down and to participate with,
yeah.
right?
And I understand that our life situations may be different. You may be working a job that it takes you long hours or your work
Sure.
schedule, but as much as possible, have interest in what your teen is interested in, um, be a sounding board for what they're doing, and give support so that they can be successful. And that's what's happening. So I'm, working on my business, but we realized as she was building hers, my youngest, that I was involved, and we said we want to do a podcast for teen entrepreneurs, but also for their parents, because we recognize there's some things a teen can't do, like they can't go open a bank account, but there are
Right.
also some other things that they need help with, and parents need to understand how to relate to, support, encourage, affirm. You just kind of guide and walk by the side of the teen entrepreneur. So we started that podcast, and I really enjoy the conversations I've had with my teenager on that
That's so
podcast.
cool. That is so cool. All right. So they can find that on any platform. Is that
So that one
correct?
is actually only on YouTube. So that's a
It's only
YouTube
on
podcast.
YouTube. So it's a video podcast
Yeah.
family, and it is All Up in the Business. That's the
Yep.
name of
So
the
if you go
channel
to
as well.
YouTube / All Up in the Business channel, you'll find it.
Excellent, excellent. And so let's move on to the other podcasts, because I really want to get into a couple of the different things that you do, because I believe that what you're doing provides value for our community as well. And I would love for them to connect with you and your community, because honestly, what is there to lose besides growing and gaining and
Yeah.
learning and just having an awesome time doing it together? So the other podcast that you have is called,
The Ideas to Life podcast,
right?
right? Very simple,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I'm probably used that phrase at least 20 times so far in this.
Okay, good. So Ideas to Life podcast, you're having guests on, you're having folks talk about how they've brought their ideas to life. What is one of the coolest things that you've learned from listening to your own guests?
Such a good question. So, started this podcast, and my goal has been to expose people to people who are just few steps ahead of them. Meaning, I've thought about starting this. This is my roadblock. Oh, this person, this is what they did. They had the same careers I had, same training, similar idea. They took action on it. Here's where they ended up. So that's what was the genesis of it, to kind of let people be inspired and also informed on how to get there.
Love it.
Well, in the middle of all of that, one of the things that started to come out is as I was asking people, like, how did you get this idea? Where did this come from? It became really apparent that people found some of the things they were doing from childhood. They had some of those just clues that this is
Mhm.
something that I'm good at, even when they were younger. So one of
And
my
there's that
guests
reflection
shared,
again, right? There's the
yeah, one of my
reflection.
guests shared, I've said, when did you know that this was something, or how did you know that this area of organization? She said, when I was a child, I go to my cousin's house and I would organize stuff. And I just always knew this was something I was good at. And it became apparent that I think many people have the opportunity. Oh, we have an opportunity to build off of things that we've always been good at, but we never saw it as being really, something special. The thing that you can build off that's special is something that you've always kind of had an inkling for.
I love it. And it really does ring true. It also circles us right back to the beginning of our conversation, where you're saying, what do you already have?
Yeah.
I mean, is it the widow's mite? Is that the right story that we
So
were
that's the
talking
one
about?
with, no, she has
That
just,
was
this is Elisha. She has just a little bit
Elisha.
of oil. And
Right.
this is what's so good about the story. She has a little bit of oil, or she has oil.
Right.
And she says, oh, it's just a little bit. He says, here's what I want you to do. All right. And I think, religious or not religious, here's what's so powerful about this story. He tells her, go out and get jars from your neighbors and don't get
Yes.
a
So,
few.
because the widow's mite was offering, right?
Yeah,
Yes. I'm
right.
sorry. Sorry.
So he
Okay.
says,
Wrong
go
story.
get jars and don't
Mhm.
get a few, right? Get as much as you can. Now, season, like, let's talk. If I have just a little bit of oil and you told me go get some jars, I may, there's a part of me that may say, okay, I'll just get 10 jars to humor this prophet guy, right?
I'd
This
be
religious guy.
grumbling under my breath. Why do I
Yeah,
have
I
to go
was like,
get these
okay, you
jars?
told me to get some jars, I got 10. But it says, and this is how the whole story works, it said that he told her when she brought the jars, okay, go into your home, shut the door, you and your sons, you pour the oil into the jars. And when she was finished, she came back and he said, now go sell them. Now, she had enough after she sold them to pay off all her debts, take care of her present, and take care of her future. Now, she would not have been able to do that with 10 jars. She had to have gotten quite a bit. But here is where I really want to speak to someone.
Yes.
It said, she said to one of her sons, bring another jar. They said, we have no more jars. And once they said that, that's when the oil stopped. The number of jars was the limiting factor. Well,
Right.
the only thing that stopped her having, the only thing that limited the number of jars was her belief. Because if she didn't have any belief, she might have gotten 5 or 10 jars. I believe from the reading of how much she was able to do with that oil, she probably got 100 or more. And she's just going around borrowing jars based on a belief that what I have here is going to do something special. What I have here is going to do something special. And for anyone who's listening to this, I want to say that what you have is going to do something special. And you have to believe that enough to push past the first no, the second no, the third no, and keep going, because your belief is really the only thing that limits what you're able to do.
It's incredibly powerful for us to pull in the jars and believe that they will be filled.
Yeah.
And if I had pulled in 3 jars, that's all I would have gotten. It would have
Right.
still been a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're not talking prosperity gospel, but we are
Right.
talking about praying for bread. Go sharpen your bread knife.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like move in the direction of what you're trying to see to be made happen. I was thinking something while you were talking. Let me see if I can get it back real quick. This idea that the filling of the jars. Nope, it's gone. That's okay. He'll bring it back. This is alive.
Yes.
We're recording live, and you probably hear my toddler in the back hallway as well. So real life happening right here, folks.
Well, we can't hear it, so it's good.
That's good. So we're going to circle back to the podcast and to helping other people to grow their ideas, to bring them to life, to have to invest. And here's what it was. It just came back to me when you were saying to push past that first no. That could also be push past that failure. And not that growth is all about money, but I'll use something we can all relate to. So financially, they say that today's millionaires have had to declare bankruptcy 3.5 times. Wow. Okay. So that's millionaires. Millionaires don't seem that impressive anymore, I guess. It's still incredibly impressive to me as far as being able to give from that large source. Right. But imagine that feeling of failure. Imagine that falling on your face hard. What is it that you believe, have done yourself, have seen in others that you think enables them to be buoyant in stuff like this? Because in our growth process, every single one of us has winter. And you've talked about that springtime where we're learning, we're unsure, we start to kind of toddle. I'd say there's like tender shoots coming up out of the ground. They need to be protected. You know, a toddler starts to walk, they fall over. What makes them get back up?
So I think a few things come to mind. One is we need to have a redefined understanding of this concept of failure.
All day.
Yeah. I think it is so interesting that we've made failure fatal, we've made it final, we've made it our identity. So if something I did not work out, I've become a failure. I'm such a failure. And we wear it and we carry it with us, and it keeps us down like an anchor. Man. And as you mentioned, like on the podcast, I've had guests who've talked about failure, a business that they started that did not work out. But what they did is they believed in, I have something I'm bringing to the table. It's someone who needs it, and I'm going to learn from this failure. And that's what I really want to just encourage someone. You learn more through failure than you do through success. and just look at it as one of my guests said, he considers failure in education. Like, look at it. What can I learn from this so that I can grow? This we're in growth
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
What can I learn that I can grow?
I appreciate that a lot. I think that there is a stage in our growth process where we have now become aware of either a failure or an area that's not working so great, something that's like, oh, that needs to change. And it's
Mhm.
actually stage two of a growth process or learning a new skill. That's
Mhm.
conscious competence or
Yeah.
conscious incompetence,
Yes.
excuse
Yes.
me. I call it winter because it's a cold and dark in that place sometimes. And I really appreciate what you're saying because I think that there is part of our community. And if I'm totally honest with you, yesterday in my life,
Mhm.
I was struggling through a few things, and that shame or that, oh, this again, or that frustration that I feel like I haven't grown past it just overtakes us sometimes,
Mm.
Kymone.
Yeah.
And when you find somebody that's in that place of shame, instead of saying, see, I see this needs to change, let's fortify that. Let's
Yeah.
unlearn it. Let's do something about it. We have to learn how to use our perseverance muscle, I guess, in a
Hmm.
way where instead of being stopped by shame or frustration or overwhelm, we have to push into that place where we say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm going to keep going anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of that too also helps. It also helps to be surrounded by community
Mm.
that will not let you believe the negative story that you want to tell yourself about your failure.
How
I
do
think.
we go ahead?
Okay,
Please
go
do.
ahead. No, I think sometimes it's so easy. If you're isolated, it's so easy to tell yourself a story about yourself that keeps you trapped.
Yes.
If you isolate, it's like, oh, I just woe is me. Something is wrong with me. And I think everyone, if you want to grow, you grow in community. So
Mm.
there will be days, like even as I'm talking, I don't have it where every day I'm positive and I'm not internalizing my failures. That's not the reality. But I have community and people who I know are encouragers. Like, you need an encourager on those days to say, no, you can do this. I believe in you, and
Mm.
even help you to rehash in your mind, hey, you overcame that obstacle before. You can do this. So I
Yes.
think it's important. I don't want us to feel like you can do all of this on your own. You need some community. You need some people who are in your circle to say, okay, what are we all working toward and how can we support each other?
I mean, I think that's what you and I are doing here, right? Because
Absolutely.
not only are we serving a community, but right now you and I are being community for each other,
Absolutely.
like-minded,
Absolutely.
fun, amazing conversation. And so, folks, you know how to get a hold of Growth Season Community podcast, all the platforms you can find, right? Audio, we're pivoting to video as well. But how can folks connect to your community?
Absolutely. So it's easy. At least it's easy to me. Um, so I've said ideas to life about 20 times. My website is ideas to life, life.me.
Got
Really
me.
want you to kind of embrace it. Ideas, life.me. If you go there, you'll find info on the podcast. You'll find how you can connect with us on social media. But that's the simplest way. And if you find my name, Kymone Hinds, you can find and follow me on any social media platform.
Right. And of course,
Um,
we're going to put all of this in the show notes as well. But, family, I just want you to hear it. I want you to know that, as well as the Growth Season community, there are other communities that are positive and encouraging, and that are safe for you to not be perfect in.
yeah.
But you better believe we are going to drive you towards something. Okay. Because whether it's a mental, emotional, or spiritual growth, bringing your ideas to life, man, you want to get that podcast started. You want to get that book written. You want something, guys, reach out. Ideas to life.me, as
Yes.
in bring your ideas to life, right?
Yes. Yes.
Ideas to life.me. I will say that one more time. So, family, we just have a couple questions left before we let you go hang out with the fam or whatever you needed to do for the rest of today. Thank you so much for being with us. I just want to make sure I don't forget to say that to you, Kymone. I want to know, two things, well, maybe three, two things for sure. What's the most refreshing for you about what you do with other people, for other people, and adding value to their lives? What's that thing that just keeps you going?
Um, there is a moment when the light bulb goes off in someone's mind where they say, I can do this.
Oh my
I can
goodness.
do this. And I don't know who is more excited, if it's them or me, but I think it's me, because it's at that moment where you're almost like lending someone your belief and then you see them
Mm.
grasp it. I can do this business. I can get this book out here. I can. And just seeing that blossom out. That is my joy, to see other people just kind of move forward and get it.
All right. That's powerful. And it's a beautiful thing for those who want to partner with you in their endeavors to know that you truly care. That this is something that you are thrilled to do and participate in with someone else. And I think that shows. And I think it's beautiful. I wonder if you could, because we're growth season, right? And I know that season is my name, but I really believe that it actually draws me to think about God the Father, Jesus, Holy Spirit, the one who named me, I believe. So while I do play off of my name, I believe it draws us to God the Father. But I want to know, what is your favorite season, time of year? And what, I don't know if it's multiple places that you find yourself growing in right now, or if there's one specific one that you're like, this is the season I'm in here. So what's your favorite season? And then what portion of growth season, fall, winter, spring, summer, do you find yourself in right now?
Wow. Good question. So I say my favorite season is spring.
All right.
So, and the reason spring is my favorite is because it probably comes after my least favorite season, which is winter, right? Like
Mhm.
winter, when I lived in really cold places, it was sort of like, okay, wow, stuff is dying, it's cold. But spring is just like, it's life again. There are opportunities again. Like it just feels like the sun even gets brighter during spring. I
Mhm.
I come alive during spring. And
Love it.
um it's interesting that you asked that. I would say I'm in a spring season right now.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad. You're the first one I've had that the two have matched. Not
Yeah,
that it matters. I just think
yeah,
it's kind of fun when they are.
yeah. It's like there's some
Okay.
things that I myself started to like, oh, this isn't. But in the spring season, you start saying, no, there's something more here than I
Hmm.
even saw before. It's some new things are coming back to life.
I love it. Some things are coming back to life. You're getting that excitement, that new growth,
Yeah,
that little bit
yeah,
of something, some color shooting up out of that,
absolutely.
ground. So what's next for you is my final question. What's
Ooh,
what's next? What can we
great.
get excited about with you? How can I pray for you, right? That's my jam. How can we do
Wow.
this together?
So I'm gonna share something here that I don't think I've ever shared this. So, um, my burden, I guess my two loves have been young people, working with youth to empower them, and now business and just seeing the ability for that. And in 2021 and beyond, one of my big visions is to I have a nonprofit that I started, but it's to really grow it to the point where I am connecting with organizations and allowing young people to get into using their ideas,
Yeah.
starting something at an earlier age when it's easier for them to take risks. That's my big goal, to really empower um, thousands. That's my goal, thousands of young people to do that. So that's what I want your community to pray for me,
Yeah.
that God would give me space, capacity, resources to do that.
We serve a God of resource. Amen. Especially when we're seeking to bless others and to help to invest in legacy, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big
It's a
deal.
good word. Yeah.
That's a big deal. Yes, sir. Well, I just can't thank you enough. I wish we had more time. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Maybe you can circle back and talk to us again.
Would
Maybe
love
we can
to.
have
Would
one of
love
your
to.
young people on. We can hang out and laugh
Would love
together.
to. Yeah, that would be great.
Listen, thank you once again. Family, you know that you can get a hold of him through multiple different media platforms. But remember, everything is at ideastolife.me, as in bringing your ideas to life, ideastolife.me. This has been a sheer pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for coming. Please come again.